Okay, so this is the first question on the Unit 6 test where we had to graph polynomials, and we were supposed to graph this one without the use of a graphing calculator. And so what I said don't focus on the local minimums and maximums much, or which are the relative extrema, but focus on x-intercepts or intercepts in general, so x and y-intercepts and the end behavior. And so when I look at this graph here, or look at this polynomial that they gave us, this function, I right away notice a couple things. First of all, it looks like it has three zeros, three x-intercepts actually. Three x-intercepts, x equals 2, or x equals 3, or x equals -1. So I'm going to need to graph those coordinates. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is that the powers, I have a total of a first power of x and a second power of x right here. There's a second power of x right down here. Okay, so that would give me a total of something with x to the fourth in it, which means it has the end behavior is the same. Is the same for both tails. Okay, so because I got an even, so because I have an even power, the end behavior is the same. And then the final thing I noticed is this quarter here. This quarter is really the leading coefficient. It's positive. And since it's positive, I know that for an end behavior that's the same, it's going to, between these two things, it's going to look like this. It's going to come down from the end and go back up. So it's going to have those kind of ends. Okay, and then another thing I noticed was when I look at this, on this one here, the 0, it actually has two 2, zeros. So that means that would be a tangent. Or another way to say it, it bounces off the x-axis, whichever direction it comes from. Okay. This one here and this one here are both odd. I should have written that over here. This one was even. Are both odd. So that means they will cross. Odd crosses the x-axis. Okay, so we've got those things going on there. So on the next screen, I'm gonna draw that. Oh, there's one other thing I might want to check on is what is the y-intercept? Before I do that, the y-intercept. Okay, the y-intercept. Put it over here. Okay, well if I set everything to 0, set all the x's to 0, I'm going to get -2 squared. Remember there's a quarter for the leading coefficient. I'm going to get -3, and I'm going to get -1. Well, those are both negative, so that's going to be a positive. And this is going to be 4. A quarter of 4 times 3 times 1. So that's 1 times 3 times 1. This means the y-intercept is 0,3. That's my y-intercept. So I've got 4 points to draw. My 4 points are going to be this point, this point, this point, and this point. Those are exact points. As far as how high or how low go in between them, doesn't really matter. And then I've got my, when I look at it, there's this one, these two are going to cross. These two here are going to cross the x-axis. This one is going to bounce off. It's either going to go like this or like this and bounce off the x-axis. So let's go to the next screen and graph it. Okay, I just noticed one other thing I made a mistake on. This was a -1 here. That's a -1, so this is a -3. Okay. That's a -3, 0, -3. So I'm going to go to the next screen and do the sketch of it. Okay, so on the next screen I already got the x and y in there, and I'm going to graph. I know the end behavior is supposed to go like this and like this because it's a leading coefficient that was positive and the highest degree was even, which was 4. So this is an x to the 4th, and I need to draw all my intercepts in. So I'll draw those in red. We had a -1, we had a 2, and we had a 3. So there we have it there. And then we had a -3 was our y-intercept. Right there. Okay, so let's draw this thing. I'll draw it in green. And oh yeah, the other thing we had was this one here, x = 2, was tangent. It's got to bounce off. Either from the top it will bounce off and then bounce back up, or if it comes from the bottom direction, it will bounce off the top and come back down like as if it was a ceiling. This one here was supposed to cross, and this one here is also supposed to cross. So let's draw this thing. Let's draw this in purple. Okay, so we're supposed to come down, and it says cross. So I'm just going to go right across that, hit the y-axis, and then I have to somehow get back to the tangent when it's 0. Well, that means I'm going to have to turn somewhere, hit here, but it's tangent, so I'm coming from the bottom, so it's going to bounce off it like a ceiling, come back down, and somehow in between there turn back up so it can cross. And it's going to look something like that. If you really want to know, you can make some calculations. You could try some calculations. I would just leave it like that because we're supposed to sketch it. And we're done.